Hi, I'm Marissa, founder of Within Your Reach.
And I'm Mara, founder of The Redefiners. We are coming here today to talk to you about a movement that we are very excited to start.
1 in 4 women and 1 in 6 men will be assaulted in their lifetime. That number is probably much higher considering only 5% of cases are reported. Sexual assault and rape are horrendous, traumatizing events, and it happens all too often to be so rarely talked about. Victims can be societally trained to believe it's their fault, but that's the thing, it never is. So now it's our time to step up and speak out. Instead of dividing in silence, let's come together with a voice. We will be heard and not overlooked.
Through the startup process of our own nonprofits, we quickly realized that men and women alike are continuing to struggle with opening up about their sexual assaults due to a continuing societal stigma. But through our own personal experiences, we have come to the realization that by opening up and confronting our pasts, we have only gained personal power in moving forward with our lives.
Through ImAStatistic, our goal is to interview men and women who have broken the silence and gained control over their assaults and their lives. We want to show how life-changing and empowering this can be through others who have found their strength in their story.
We already have over 20 men and women who are excited to share their stories about overcoming their past and how it has positively affected their future, ranging from creating organizations like ours, writing books, and advocating for their passions. These warriors use their pasts to fuel their futures.
We are so excited to introduce this strength to our community and hopefully inspire others to start taking control.
Please visit us on our Facebook, #ImAStatistic. This is where we will be releasing all of these interviews, as well as our website, www.ImAStatistic.org.
For more information on our nonprofit organizations, please see the links posted below on your screen.
We look forward to seeing your comments, and if you wish to stay anonymous to the group, please PM us on our Facebook, #ImAStatistic, and Marissa or myself can speak with you directly. Okay.
Awesome. Today we have Michelle. Michelle, if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi, my name's Michelle. I'm 43 and I have 2 children. I'm a single mom. I went to school and studied communications, specializing in journalism and PR, which I really enjoyed. And that's kind of turned into me getting more involved with doing websites and photography. It's actually taken me in that direction. So most recently I'm doing some photography and also painting. So that's kind of what I like to do.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. So if you wouldn't mind just telling us a little bit about your story.
Sure. So when I was 14, I was in high school. Some family issues had happened before that. I was a freshman. So I started the year a little bit late, probably end of October, early November. Didn't really tell anybody. And, but that was a separate family issue. So then I started school a little bit late and, we had this group of friends. There was a boy that I met in school that I liked and kind of had a crush on him for a while. He was in my grade, 9th grade. We were both 14 and this is in 1988. So anyway, long story short, he had a party at his house and me and my friends went and there was a bunch of people there, no parents, of course, and lots of alcohol, and his older brother, who was 18, and his friends. And we were all drinking, me included. And when I think back, I remember the guys being up to something, like something funny was going on. They were all, hiding in the room, talking about something. So you knew like something was up, but I had no idea. I really wasn't paying that much attention to it. Looking back, I realized I was being picked for an assault. So anyway, he asked me to go in one of the bedrooms and whatever. And this was somebody I really liked. So I was like, oh, wow, he likes me too. So I was like, okay. And, things progressed to a point where I was like, okay, stop. I don't want to go any further. And he had already planned on doing what he was going to do, which was sexually assault me. He raped me. I tried to get away and couldn't. After that happened, a friend of mine outside the room thought she heard screaming and asked me, "Were you screaming in there?" And I didn't know how to respond. I was like in complete shock of what had just happened. And he hid in the closet because he didn't want to be seen coming out with me. It was just so disturbing. I just was in such shock of what just happened. And so anyway, so this friend asked me if I was screaming in there, and I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And I kind of just went downstairs and, you know, kind of walked away. So once I got home, I called my best friend who lived across the street from me and told her what happened. So mind you, she's only 15, right? So nobody really talked about this stuff or was open about this stuff in the 80s. This wasn't really discussed that much. Even only now, most recently, are people really opening up about it publicly, you know, where it's a conversation going on everywhere. So anyway, so I knew what happened to me. So she calls him and says something to him. And of course he denies, I don't know what you're talking about, or I don't know what exactly he said. But I told one other person that night, a friend that had moved away and that was living in Florida at the time. I was in New Jersey. So I had told that person, and they just didn't even know what to say. And that was that. And then I just pushed it out of my mind for a year and a half. And other things had happened, and I ended up in a therapeutic environment where it came out what happened to me. And that was when I told anybody, really, since that first night. I never talked about it with my friend. Like, it never came back up again. So yeah, it was about a year and a half until I finally spoke about it and told my parents, told a therapist, but nothing really ever even happened after that. It was like, okay, here's something to deal with and get some therapy for. But there was never any, you know, legal prosecution or any of that, like no police report or anything like that, which I guess still bothers me to this day somewhat. But that's kind of the story of exactly what happened.
Thank you so much for sharing. I mean, even after however long it's been, you know, it's still hard to talk about. It's still really uncomfortable sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I feel like I've talked about it for a long time. Like when I was 15 and a half, I think, when I first told anybody, and I've told it extremely close friends, but not, I mean, this is going 30 years now. We're going on 30 years ago. And only now I feel like I'm just starting to be open about it to strangers and to, you know, not really being that afraid to talk about it. But I will share this. 2 nights ago, I woke up, I don't really have dreams that much. And I woke up from a nightmare of being chased by a man who was trying to rape me. And when he got his hand around my throat and grabbed me, was when I woke up.
Oh my God.
And that just kind of says to me, like, how long it affects somebody. Like, it affects somebody for their entire life. Whether they heal from it and help others, or they don't recover and heal from it, it changes you as a person. And that was just another reminder, you know, 30 years later, having gone through therapy, still in therapy, and sharing my story with other people. Like, it's still there in a way, but it's empowering to share it and not be afraid to anymore.
That's awesome. Do you feel now that you do talk about it with people and strangers and people you know, do you feel like it's more liberating, or that more people come forward and talk to you about their story because of it?
Definitely. Recently, I had an experience with a young woman that we kind of made a connection. We have a lot of things in common, I guess. And one of them, unfortunately, is that we were both sexually assaulted at a young age. And she had never shared it with anyone. And I shared with, she opened up to me and told me what happened to her. And I thanked her for sharing. I know how hard it is to do that, but I felt grateful that she felt safe enough with me that she could begin to open up about it, and has since reached out for some counseling to help her process it, because she really didn't get any services or any of that when it happened, and it was a few years ago. So I feel like by me sharing my story, it helped her find the courage to open up and share hers, and get some help that she needs to, you know, recover from the pain of it, really.
That's incredible. And you helped her do that. That's awesome. That's exactly what ImAStatistic is trying to do. You know,
yep, that's why I'm here sharing.
Thank you so much. I mean, I'm so happy that you're here and open and want to work with us. Were there any reservations that you had about talking about it to people, about opening up?
I think that, and I think this is probably common, like early on, there's a lot of shame involved. And then once you get past that a little bit, it's like, what are people going to think of me? Or you feel like they're going to think it's your fault somehow, or you're responsible somehow. Or maybe they'll think of you differently. So I guess I do feel some of that in a way, like, but there's a part of me that I just don't care anymore. Like, I'm not ashamed anymore. Like, I'm not afraid. I don't have any fear about it, I think, that I used to have. I really don't care what people think anymore at this point. And I think as a nation, what's happening right now with just women in general and women's issues are kind of coming to the forefront. And I feel like it's creating an environment that's more open to hearing this, because I think a lot of people don't realize how our society is set, that women there's like this invisible set of rules that we're supposed to follow or whatever. And it's so ingrained that nobody even realizes that women are treated a certain way and judged a certain way. Even me as a woman would find myself like questioning, or is that really real? And I'm thinking, what am I thinking? This is the kind of mentality that keeps people from speaking out. You know, like you hear about a girl got raped by, I'm making this up, but you know, say a girl got raped by a couple teammates, which we know has happened in different places. You know, and everyone's like, first reaction is like, well, maybe she's a slut, you know? And it's like, no, but I've even caught myself thinking that way. So I just think it's so ingrained, even somebody who's been assaulted. But I think things are changing now, and I think people are taking it more seriously. I think one issue that really needs to be addressed, and I was thinking about this earlier, is talking to the boys. You know, they came to my daughter's high school, the county prosecutor, to talk about sexual assault. And she came home, her and many other students, and they did actually write to the principal about it, that they felt they presented it as if it's the girl's responsibility to not get raped, and it's like their fault. And they were so upset by this. And the boys were joking around, laughing. And when is the conversation going to get to, this is not okay? Like, we need to teach our boys and young men, like, what consent is, which I think is starting to happen some, but on a much bigger scale. And, you know, give them some values, I guess, and some, I mean, I don't know, as a woman, I don't understand how you could hurt someone that way, but I think talking to boys about it more too is something else that really needs to happen. Aside from women being able to feel safe to speak out if they are assaulted or anything like that, I think that needs to be part of the conversation as well.
I agree. I think part of it's also clarifying what the actual parameters of sexual assault are. A lot of
Yes.
people have come to me lately, and I mean lately, like the past 2 weeks, been like, this happened to me. Is this constituted as rape? Is it sexual assault? Did I technically consent? And the answer is usually, yes, it's sexual assault. No, you didn't consent. And I mean, people as
Wow.
old as in their 50s and as young as in their teens. I mean, it's sick. I just think that it needs to be clarified to everyone what is like a good touch, bad touch, but on a bigger scale. Like what's okay and what's not okay.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, the first time anyone ever touched me inappropriately, I was in grammar school in a public place, and an older teenager touched me inappropriately. And I remember to this day, the anger and the rage I felt, like, how dare you touch me? I didn't give you permission to do that. And it was like, in a second, it was there, it happened, and it was over, and there was nothing I can do. Like, by the time I looked up, he was like passed by in a crowd of people, you know? And I mean, but I was maybe fourth grade, like I was little. And it's just, it's scary how rampant it is just in society as a whole. Even little things like that, people don't think much of it, but it still incites that violated feeling and the anger, you know, from someone doing that. Even somebody as simple as touching you inappropriately, you know, it still gives you those same feelings as a rape, essentially.
Yeah. Or asking for naked pictures, which Snapchat's pretty much like that's its MO. You go on Snapchat. Right. I don't have one, but my younger cousin does. And, you know, she came to me and said, some guy, you know, that I really had a crush on, felt like we were only friends and nothing ever, there was no previous indication of us, or our relationship was not anything sexual, wrote to me one night and asked me for nudes. And I felt so horrible.
Wow.
And he didn't do it. But she's like, I felt so violated. I felt so uncomfortable. And I don't know why, because I didn't do it. And like, he didn't touch me. And I said, no, because he invaded your privacy. That's not something that you guys had established. That's not a relationship you guys had had. I'm glad that she didn't do it. And I told her that 1,000 times, but that's sexual assault. It's the behavior of making somebody uncomfortable sexually.
You know? Absolutely. And it's objectifying her as an individual.
Right. Right.
And that is not a good feeling at all.
Absolutely.
Like making you feel like you're less than a person.
Yeah, absolutely. Like she has one use on this earth, and it's to appease him and his nighttime urges. Like that's disgusting.
Right. It's funny the way that you said that, because that was exactly the scenario in my dream.
Really?
It was that exact feeling, what you just described. It was like he just couldn't control himself and just was chasing me down, and I'm running for my life. And it was like that kind of thinking.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, I know. I slept with my dog last night. After that, I woke up and I was like, I woke up from somebody grabbing me by the throat, ready to like attack me. It was so scary, you know? So
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No nightmares last night though, so that's good.
Hopefully you won't have any more. Hopefully that was just stress induced because of this. And
maybe, I don't know. It was weird. And the funny thing is I saw a thing on Facebook that yesterday, like the next day, right? And it talked about how dreams, like bad dreams, were actually a way of healing, of like your body healing while you're sleeping. And I thought, wow, maybe that was a way of my mind processing it. I don't know, but I found it interesting that popped up the day after I had this bad dream. So
Big Brother's always watching.
Yeah, it was kind of funny.
But no, I mean, I think it is. I think it's a good way for our bodies and our minds to process events, but I just think nightmares are such a terrible way of processing, because you wake up sweaty and terrified.
Yeah, they're no fun, that's for sure.
Yeah. So do you have any advice for survivors, for other people that went through something you did or are currently going through it?
Well, I definitely want to touch on this. Like when my daughter got to be around high school age, right, around the time I was assaulted, something that was important to me was to talk to her about it, right? And let her know, you know, always stay with a friend. Like if you go to a party or something, like don't be alone with a boy, or, you know, just don't drink or get loopy where you don't know what's going on around you. And really stressing like that awareness of who's around you, what's the situation you're in, like avoid putting yourself in certain situations, always make sure you have a friend with you, you know, and I told her what happened with me, because who would think a 14-year-old would know how to effectively rape someone? Who is fighting back? I mean, obviously there was older kids telling him what to do. So I wanted her to have that awareness. And I think the conversation is important. For other people who have been through a similar situation, I mean, it's hard. I know it's hard. There's so many feelings you experience from it, and it can impact you in so many ways. And I guess my best advice would be is just share it with someone, like share the burden. Don't carry it inside by yourself, because it will destroy you. And you are beautiful and loved and worth it. So take the steps that you need to get help mentally, emotionally, physically, take care of yourself. If you know who did this to you and you're confident to go to the police, I would do that. I wish that was done for me and it wasn't. I mean, it's still something I think about doing. Even if it's a piece of paper that sits in the drawer for forever and ever and nobody ever looks at it again, I know that I stuck up for that 14-year-old girl that was raped. That's what matters to me, is taking care of that. I guess the biggest thing, I can't leave this out, is that it's not your fault. It's not. I don't care like what you did or what you were wearing or drinking or what. It's not your fault. The person who did this to you, it's their fault, and they're the one responsible. I mean, do what you can to keep yourself safe and aware, but it's not a guarantee. But just unburden yourself with carrying that around, because it's not your fault.